The night the bank letter came, the man who promised to stand by Maya forever packed his bags and walked out the door. He told her the farm was a sinking ship. He told her she was a fool to stay, and then he was gone. But what Jesse didn't know was that the farm he abandoned and the woman he left behind were about to prove him completely wrong. This is the story of a broken promise, a woman who refused to break with it, and the day the man who left came crawling back. If you've ever been left behind by someone who promised to stay, this story is for you. Tap subscribe before we begin. For everyone who learned that the right people stay and the wrong ones leaving is the best thing that ever happened to you. Now let me take you to a small farm in a quiet valley, and the love that was never as strong as it seemed. Maya Hale was 24, and she ran her family's small farm in the valley with little more than grit and love. It was the farm her grandfather had built, the place where she'd grown up, and the only home she had ever known. Her grandfather, Old Man Hale, had raised her after she lost her parents young, and he'd taught her that land and loyalty were the two things worth keeping. When he passed, he left her the farm and a stack of debts that came with it, and he left her something else too, a piece of advice she didn't understand until much later. Maya, he'd told her near the end, when hard times come, watch who stays and who runs. That tells you everything. At the time, Maya had Jesse, and she was sure he would always be one of the ones who stayed. Jesse was charming, handsome, and full of big promises about the future they would build together. He told her he loved the farm. He told her he'd be by her side no matter what came. And for a while, when things were easy, he kept that promise well enough. But Maya didn't see what her grandfather might have seen, that Jesse loved the idea of the farm far more than the work of it. He liked the sunsets and the easy days. He vanished when there was heavy lifting to be done. Maya made excuses for him, the way we do for people we love. She told herself he'd step up when it really mattered. She was about to find out exactly what he was made of. It started with a bad year. A drought hit, the harvest failed, and the debts her grandfather left began to close in. Then came the letter from the bank. The farm was behind on its loans, and if Maya couldn't pay, she would lose everything. It was the hardest moment of her life, and the moment she needed Jesse the most. But when she showed him the letter and asked him to stand with her, something in his face changed. "Maya, be realistic," he said. "This place is a money pit. It's done. We should walk away while we still can." "I'm not walking away from my grandfather's farm," she told him. "I can't." Jesse looked at her for a long moment, and then he said the words that broke her heart. "Then you're on your own. I didn't sign up to drown with a dying farm." That night he packed his things and left. No goodbye worth the name, just headlights fading down the lane. For a few days, Maya was sure her world had ended. She had lost the man she loved and was about to lose the farm too. It would have been easy to give up. But on the third morning, she walked out to the barn and found her grandfather's old cap hanging where he'd left it, and his words came back to her. "Watch who stays and who runs." That tells you everything. In that moment, she understood. Jesse leaving wasn't the end of her story. It was the truth finally showing itself. She put on her grandfather's cap, wiped her eyes, and made a decision. She would save the farm herself, or go down fighting for it. What followed were the hardest and proudest months of Maya's life. She worked from before sunrise to long after dark. She learned everything she didn't know and did the work of 3 people. She went to the bank herself and fought for more time, laying out a plan to turn the farm around. She found a new way forward, switching to crops that suited the dry land, selling directly at the market, cutting every cost she could. The neighbors who had doubted her began to help. An old farmer lent her a tractor. A widow taught her the markets. The community she'd always had quietly closed in around her. These were the people who stayed. And slowly, Maya realized she was never as alone as she had felt. Season by season, the farm began to come back to life, and so did she. 2 years passed. The farm Jesse had called a sinking ship was now one of the most respected in the valley. Maya had paid off her grandfather's debts. She had built something stronger than ever, entirely on her own. She wasn't the heartbroken girl in the doorway anymore. She was a woman who knew exactly what she was worth. And then, one warm afternoon, a familiar car came rolling slowly up the lane. Maya looked up from her work, and her heart skipped, not with longing, but with disbelief. It was Jesse. He looked around at the thriving fields, the full barn, the life she had built, and the easy confidence drained from his face. "Maya," he said, his voice unsure, "this place, it's incredible. You did all this?" She wiped her hands calmly and looked at him. "I did," she said, "after you left." He shifted on his feet, and then came the words she'd once dreamed of hearing, but that now meant nothing. "I made a mistake," Jesse said, "leaving you, leaving this. I was scared. I've thought about you every day. Maya, could we try again?" For a moment, Maya just looked at him, the man who promised forever, and ran at the first sign of hardship, and she felt no anger, just a quiet, certain peace. "Jesse," she said gently, "my grandfather told me once to watch who stays and who runs. You showed me exactly who you were. And I'm grateful, because losing you is what made me find myself. This farm isn't a sinking ship, it never was. You just weren't strong enough to help me sail it, and that's okay. I didn't need you to." Jesse opened his mouth, but there was nothing left to say. He gave a small nod, got back in his car, and drove away. For good this time. And as Maya watched the dust settle on the empty lane, she didn't feel loss. She felt free. Maya kept the farm thriving for the rest of her life, every season a reminder of what she had survived and built alone. In time, the right kind of love did find her, the kind that stayed through the hard seasons, not just the easy ones. Her grandfather had been right all along. When hard times come, you find out who truly stays. Sometimes the person who walks away is doing you the greatest favor of your life, clearing the path for who you were always meant to become. Maya never set out to prove Jesse wrong. She just refused to give up on the farm and on herself. And in the end, the broken promise that nearly destroyed her became the very thing that set her free.